Hello to anyone watching. Today we will be designing a frog.
Chunk the baby dragon.
Pegasus. This thing. Squirrels.
Been making good life choices.
A bearded dragon. The rest of our skeleton. The same owl in 1 hour, 10 hours, and 100 hours. Our lobster. This little crocodile. A death's head hawk moth. Hello, it's Thursday.
Hello, it's Thursday.
Hello, it's Thursday.
Hello, it's Thursday.
Hello, it's Thursday. So at the start of January, literally 9 AM on the 1st of January, Complicated Knots ticked over 100,000 subscribers. And all year, I've been trying to work out what to do to celebrate that or acknowledge that, but I think I've arrived at something. So 2 years ago, when we hit 1,000 subscribers, I sat down with you guys and we drew a picture that celebrated every video it had taken to reach that milestone. And I just feel like doing something similar to that, maybe just knocked up a notch, is the perfect way to celebrate this milestone today. We're gonna do it as a giant crochet tapestry thing involving some 3D elements and some cross stitch and some weaving and all kinds of things. I got plans. I need to get my test swatch. And my approach here is largely inspired by this little square. So that's kind of like the vibe. I want to do one little square for every single video from my very first one up to 100,000 subscribers, which is 186 videos. So I think I just need to sit down and work out what's the best configuration for 186 individual squares. So there are the two potential layouts. We've got one that's kind of a little bit more portrait and one that's a little bit more landscape. And I've crunched the numbers and that means that it's going to be like 1.5-ish meters, either long or tall, which is quite a substantial size. It is. If I've missed an upload week around the release of this video, this is why. Because we're also preparing for Bugsmas. I don't know why I do this. I do know why I do this. I do this for the love. So there are a couple of areas in this room where it can live. It'd be lovely if it would live in this room and absorb some of the sound bounce. First up, we have this area here that's just in the doorway to the room that would require like a nice vertical piece. Or I have several areas in the room where like a long panel could fit. So like above these set of shelves, above the window, or above the streaming computer. So I think we're going to start by just making like a really rough digital version of what we're trying to accomplish here, because it's going to be too big for me to wing it. Even though winging it is kind of like my go-to move. So I started by establishing a grid that matched the number of squares that I needed. Next, I took a screen grab of the yarn color options from the website, and I used that to make a little palette for me to work from. I think this is going to help me stick to just the colors I already have. From there, I worked on roughing out basically what I wanted for each square. The purpose of this was to help me work out what the background color for each square needed to be. I'd make separate guides for the specifics of each one later. Picking a background color for each square wasn't as simple as just picking the color that covered the biggest area. Instead, I wanted to consider each square to have 3 dimensions and make sure that I picked the color that I wanted most in the background. I realized at the end that I had just 2 squares on the final row, so I did end up shuffling things around a couple of times until I was happy, and I eventually arrived at a layout that was 9 rows of 20 squares. So at this point, I'm expecting the project to be 184 rows of 202 stitches. Now I'm wondering if I could just get that printed and stick it on the wall and call it a day, but we're not copying out, we're going to get this done. So the next thing I have to do is crochet the base piece of it. Now, as I build up this base piece, I am thinking I'm going to try and change colors just for the background of each square, because that is going to save me literally hundreds of hours on the other side of this whole thing, even if it is going to complicate and slow down the process of making the base piece itself. So I'm going to like convert this image into like a guide so I know what base color goes where. So I've got all my colors laid out here, a little bit of a plan. This is my guide. This will Sherpa me. Did I mention that the way you get these nice, where's my little sample gone? Have I mentioned that the way you get these nice square little stitches is by working every row twice? No? Twice. Now I'm going to need to chain 202 stitches for this base chain, so nobody say anything while I keep count. I am going to put bobby pins in every 50 chains just so that I don't lose track of where I'm up to. Okay, so that's 50, 100, 150, 200, and we want to go to 202, so 1, 2, and then a turning chain is important. 3. All right. That is not too bad. I thought it would be wider. Huh. Back we go. Okay, so I've reached the end of my white row, which is where I was planning to start the colours, but I've abruptly realised I've only really tested this in one colour, so I don't actually know what changing colours is going to do overall. So we need to do a little swatch. We're going to stop and we're going to do a quick little swatch. What is 100 more stitches in the face of a project like this if it's going to save me a headache? So let's just grab some green and I'll just do just a little swatch. Ah, that's a magic ring. It'll take longer to do it if I do it that way. Oh, the revised number was 178 squares, by the way. I don't know why the original export told me I had 186 videos, but there must have been some like live streams and just generally unlisted stuff in the mix. Okay, so it definitely looks better over the top of the purple slip stitches. And I get neater little squares to work with when I work in the back loop only for them, which is interesting to note. I don't think this will matter too much because these lines will only appear on the edges between the colours anyway, which I might actually end up liking as part of the piece, because when I'm doing just purple on purple, it's not going to be an issue at all that I think this is going to work. Now, just to reset and get our first colours locked and loaded, because technically, while I have my guide here, I believe that the initial row is going to be worked from the end back, just because we're working on the wrong side. So this is right side to wrong side, this is wrong side to right side. It makes sense in my brain. Okay, so that means we are starting with Cloud. With my giant white base worm done, I started pulling colours in the order they were listed in my guide. I kind of muddled my way through this first block of squares, but I knew I was going to have to find a better way to organise myself. This is going to become a nightmare. I'm going to have to work out a system here. Also, it turns out that I had miscounted the rows on my original swatch, and I didn't actually need 20 rows of stitches to make a square. 18 was plenty. I probably could have even gotten away with 16. And this realization saved me from 18 rows in total across the project, which comes to 3,636 stitches, and I just really appreciate that. So with the first row of squares done, I worked out roughly how much yarn each square takes, and then decided to prep all of my yarn before continuing. I created a mini ball for each and every square to help stay organised. And just like that, I found another use for bobby pins. Is there nothing they can't do? And then I sorted them into a big rainbow because it made me happy. I think I used all of my bobby pins to set this up, but I had a little bauble ready to collect them all up again after they'd been used. Then as I made each row, I could just pull out the colours that I needed and lay them out ready.
I did end up with a spare ball of green and a spare ball of purple, but I don't really know how that happened.
just realised that I'm at the halfway point. There still looks like a lot of yarn left, but halfway point.
It's finally done.
It took 5 days and 37,570 stitches. Now it would have been 37,572, but I know I dropped at least 2 stitches and I wasn't going back. And if you say you would, you're a better person than I am. Lost to the sands of time. Now it does still need to be blocked because it does still skew a little bit diagonal, but I do think that we're just gonna carry on as is for now because I don't have anything to block it with. So I'm gonna just like kick that can down the line and we'll work out what to do later. So now we have this field of amazing, perfect, beautiful little squares. The next thing to do is to add details to each square. Now each square represents one video that it took to get to 100K. Oh, it all fits on screen, look at that. Now each square represents one video, and I'm thinking I'm gonna use a combination of like cross stitch and long stitch for a lot of them, but I am not above adding 3-dimensional elements to some, just to like really get the message across. So my hands feel like super strong now after that workout. I feel like my individual fingers all have biceps. I actually kind of feel like I could climb the wall like a gecko if I wanted to, just like. So in the making of this, I did store all of the scrappy pieces of yarn in one little bobbly dish, and I stored all of the used bobby pins in another little dish. But it turns out that I miscalculated the length for all the mini skeins. So I also have all the leftover yarn here. That's quite a lot of yarn, but most of it are usable length pieces. And so a lot of this is going to be used as we add details to the main piece. So now the real project begins. So I have gone ahead and created these little grids for all of the squares I want to do. And they're just based on that digital piece that I made at the start. And I'm going to use them as a guide for each of the squares. They're so cute. I might post these up on Patreon for anyone who wants them. I know there's plenty of like cross stitches and beaders and all kinds of other things in the community. You might have a use for some cute little grids with some cute little pictures in them. I spent a lot of time on these. I'm pretty proud of them. Okay, so we're going to start with the smiling frog, which is the first video I ever published to YouTube. It took me 3 weeks to put this video together and I didn't really know what to expect, but I had all this extra time on my hands and figured, why not? And I'm a really data-driven person, so if you pay attention to the top right-hand corner of the screen, you will be able to see the subscriber count from the week each video was uploaded. This little frog won us our first 28 subscribers. Next up was the giant bee, which is my old bumblebee pattern made with, I think it was 6 strands of yarn. It turned out enormous, but lovely and squishy. You may have noticed over the years that I have a bit of a love affair with large crochet creatures, and this is the first time I got to show that on camera. After that, there was a couple more design videos that focused more on how I went about designing certain projects, such as the monster pumpkin and the Legosaurus, so named because of the brick texture that the stitches gave him. Next up, I tried out a skill tutorial type of video, showing 3 ways to make crochet fluffy. For this square, I thought it would be super fun to take those 3 techniques and apply them, making the square itself fluffy. I had to be really careful using the brush though, because I didn't want to rip up any of the other squares. Look, I don't really talk about the giant pigeon head. I still have the pigeon head. It is here somewhere.
Then I whipped up a little tractor for Father's Day, but sadly didn't really write it down. At this point, I was still trying out different types of videos just to see what I enjoyed making, and we ticked over 51 subscribers. We did a little brainstorming session next, as I picked creatures and Halloween ideas out of a hat and combined them, creating the 5 creatures we would be making in our Halloween pattern series. This was the first pattern ever posted on the channel, which was of course Spookitty.
Right, this is just more of a note to my future self that in the last 3 days we have hit 200 followers on Instagram, 100 subscribers on YouTube, and it's been a really good week, and I just want to remember what this feels like, because currently on YouTube there are so many people who they're burning out and they're talking about how their numbers don't give them any kind of high anymore and they're having to take breaks for various reasons, and I just want to remember this moment because it just feels really good that people like what I'm doing. Anyway, bye.
This was quickly followed by the Platycornicus, Scalicorn, Pumpkin Spider, who to this day is one of my most viewed patterns, and the Witch Owl. By the end of this series, our community had grown to 231 subscribers. The next video was a little bit looser and a little bit more meta as we sorted through my yarn stash. This was something that I'd been putting off for a long time. It was good for me though, and since then I've worked on de-stashing and just keeping my yarn choices consistent. It was stylistically a good learning experience for me as well when it came to editing, and while it didn't gain that many views at first, it did become one of my more popular videos over time. At one point I was making My Little Ponies. Fluttershy was the only one I finished, but Rarity ended up with a carpet beetle infestation after sitting in a box for 4 years. So I guess that's what we're gonna call closure. And then to round out the year, we did a Christmas pattern series, starting with the Present, the mouse with a cookie, a reindeer, an ill-conceived stocking creature that nobody really understood, and a dove tree ornament, which brings us almost to the end of 2020 and our running total up to 545 subscribers.
Which is where we're going to leave it for today. So I will be back with part 2, which will be the final part. I don't even like splitting it in half. After the 12 days of crochet, which is 12 patterns over 12 days, starting on the 1st of December here on YouTube. And it's gonna be great, and I hope to see you all there. I'm actually really looking forward to getting to work on this some more. It's actually really satisfying getting to fill out all of the little squares. And all of the planning is done already, and so it's literally just a matter of just sitting down and chilling, maybe with an audio book, and just filling it out. Just scratches the wrinkles of my brain just right. Now, I have realized that I am going to have to work out how to block this because we are crooked. However, that is something that is so far outside of my realm of experience, and I don't think I have any tools or equipment to help me do that. So any advice you can leave me in the comment section would be greatly appreciated. But yeah, other than that, I'll see you next week. Okay, bye. Is that really overexposing me on one side? Hi.
Look what I can do with my claws!
I said back loop instead of front loop. Okay, so how we get this is that we work a row of slip stitch. Wait, is that funny? Or is that a reference to a joke that's funny in a context where the joke is actually funny? 9. What's after light grey? Dark bottle. Which brings out my British.
Bless you. Bless you. Bless you.
Thank you. I got a fibre up my nose. A problem has 3 stitches to be discovered, else it becomes part of the final fabric.
So I was attempting to do that front loop only. Oh wow, the echo is bad. I'll just do the bits we have to do and I'll do the narration facing the wall. We're gonna do the narration now, but I'm gonna do it facing the yarn so we get better audio quality. Ah, it's another use for bobby pins. There's nothing they can't do. My fingers have biceps. Oh, I've covered the microphone. I did scrooge. Oh, no. You guys excited for Bugsmas? I'm excited for Bugsmas. As of filming this, I have designed 8.5 out of the 12 bugs. It's the 15th, it might be the 16th today. What's the date? Get excited for Bugsmas. All right, so this is a message to anyone who made it this far into the bloopers. The shirts will be out soon. And I really didn't want to split this video in half, but I bit off more than I could chew this month. Bye. Okay, buddy. Thanks everyone, bye.